How much do you rely on intuition to help you navigate challenges? Do you just rely on your intellect, rationalization, and reasoning? Well, intuition can also help guide this process of taking challenges. Intuition connects you with what resonates deeply within you. It's feeling based and it's helpful without it also being logical. In previous lessons, we've investigated the two minds, the unmoved mind of awareness and the flexible agile mind of attention. Intuition links these two minds together. Intuitive signals arise in your awareness, in that unmoved mind, and then you use your attention to apply it in your current situation with that flexible and agile mind. Intuition helps you take risks. It helps you tune into levels of resistance that you feel for taking a risk without justifying it away with your intellect. So intuition helps you take appropriate risks, and in a broader sense, it helps you trust in how life is unfolding. The dictionary defines intuition as direct perception of truth, fact, etc., independent of any reasoning process, immediate apprehension. I'm not sure if intuition is fact or truth. What I'm sharing with you today is a practical way of how I apply intuition in my life and in the challenges that I face and navigate. The main point is that intuition is not the intellect. It's not an intellectual way of understanding reality. Intuitive signals are subtle thoughts and feelings that can help guide the challenges that you're taking. So you can have a balanced approach between using your intellect but also using your intuition. Now, some thoughts that come up into your awareness are obvious. These come from the reasoning intellect. But some are more subtle, and you need to be able to distinguish between what is coming from your intellect and what's coming more from intuition. Then you're going to be able to recognize these intuitive signals. Intuition is the connecting link between the unmoved mind of awareness and the flexible agile mind of attention. Subtle thoughts and feelings come into your awareness, and then you put them into action with your attention. It's important to be awake and alert so that you can integrate these intuitive signals. Being awake and alert are core qualities to these two minds. You're awake so you're not lost in thought. This is the realm of the unmoved mind of awareness. And then you're alert so you can integrate these intuitive signals into your experience. And this is the realm of the flexible, agile mind of attention. Students have asked me how to distinguish between fear and these intuitive signals. Well, first it's important to distinguish between active fear and illusory fear. Active fear is a healthy emotion that moves you to take action. You might fight or flee a stressful or dangerous situation. Illusory fear tends to be inactive. You're afraid because you're imagining what might happen. This kind of fear keeps you from engaging in stress. Yet engagement is necessary to clarify what the fear is alerting you to. Active fear is helpful. Illusory fear is not helpful. And intuitive signals can help you clarify these illusory fears. But don't try to make sense out of these intuitive signals. That's using the intellect. Rather, just follow them. Here's some guidance. Intellect makes sense. It understands via sensory confirmation. Intuition makes nonsense. It understands via revelation. Don't try to make sense out of nonsense. Rather, rely on the nonsense until you can integrate it into your experience. That converts intuitive nonsense into intellectual sense. A risk is something that is stressful. It's beyond your level of experience, at least somewhat. It's outside of your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is your level of experiential knowledge. That's what you intellectually know. You know it because you've experienced it. You shouldn't only rely on your intellect for making risk decisions, because part of that experience is going to be outside of what you know. It's in that yellow zone. You also need to include intuition, and that means including the body, not just the mind. The body gives insights to the level of resistance that you're experiencing. The level of resistance lets you know where you are on the comfort, stress, panic continuum. Here are the basic levels. Comfort zone. You feel no resistance. The comfort zone is the green zone. Stress zone. You feel some resistance as you edge into the stress. The level of resistance increases as you move further into the stress zone. Your desire to escape the stress increases as you go deeper into the stress zone. The stress zone equals the yellow zone. Panic zone. You feel so much resistance that you want to escape it immediately. The panic zone is the red zone. What level of resistance allows you to be present and to learn? Well, if you just stay in the green comfort zone, then you're bored and no learning will take place. If you get into the panic zone, then you're going to want to escape and no learning can take place. It's the stress zone where learning can take place, where you can be present, but not all parts of the stress zone. Remember, I said that as you're going deeper into that yellow stress zone, then there's going to be increased desire to escape the situation. There's too much stress for you to process. So you gauge the appropriateness of the situation, the risk, by your willingness to stay in the stress of the experience. 1 foot in the comfort zone and 1 foot in the stress zone, so to speak. In other words, 1 foot in the green and 1 foot in the yellow. This maintains learning, meaning that you're willing to be present for and process the stress that's part of that experience. And I think you can see how motivation fits into this. Learning-based motivation moves you toward a willingness to be in that stressful experience rather than escaping it. So how do you tune in to check these levels of resistance? Well, let's use an example like teaching falling practice. We increment students into longer falls as we're teaching this skill. This incremental process produces a little stress. It allows students to be present for falls and process the stress into comfort. That means they become comfortable with that length of falls. To do this effectively, though, we need to be able to track the level of stress that the student is experiencing. If there's too much stress, then the BEB, or breathing, eyes, body elements will contract. But it's not enough just to track the stress level of the student. We also, as instructors, we need to track the stress level within ourselves. We can feel when a student has taken a fall that wasn't comfortable for them. We can see that contraction. We can feel it. We can also feel when we see them taking steps up to take a longer fall than what we intended. So we tune into ourselves to track our own level of resistance, because we have a wealth of experience teaching this skill. And when we see students do something that is outside of that experience, then we can feel it manifest in our bodies as intuitive signals. We intuit levels of stress so we can track what's going on for the whole situation, what's going on for the student and for us, to see where the whole situation lines up on the comfort, stress, panic continuum. Too much stress can cause an injury or trauma, so intuition can help us discern that learning edge. We expand our awareness to the whole so we know where we are, where the whole situation is on this green, yellow, red continuum. This helps us discern that learning edge so we can maintain a learning situation. Can you trust your intuition? Well, maybe, It depends on how much experience you have with a given activity. Intuition accesses your past experience and then it compares it to the current situation that you're facing. For example, we have beginner young climbers that can feel invulnerable. Life hasn't kicked them around enough with tough life experiences. And so the same thing happens in climbing. They have little or no falling experience and they're confident in pushing themselves until they take a fall. And then that fall, because they have no falling experience or very little, it ends up being very different than what they expected. So they're surprised or shocked. Quality practice builds trust into your intuition. It embodies that activity in your body. That expands your comfort zone, your green zone, your level of experiential knowledge in that activity. And then you can trust the intuitive signals that are coming from the body about the level of stress that you're experiencing. How do you recognize intuitive signals? Well, here are a few steps. First, step back with the unmoved mind of awareness. This expands your awareness. It helps you perceive the complete situation. This allows you to operate from awareness rather than thinking. Second, use curiosity to direct the flexible, agile mind of attention. Curiosity directs your attention toward the situation instead of thinking about it. Intuitive signals come in the form of seeing, visual images, hearing, inner voice or words, feeling, sensations, feelings in the body, thoughts, subtle thoughts. Foundational to being able to recognize these intuitive signals is quieting the mind. You slow down, be quiet, and relax into EBOM, this expanded body observant mind. If you're lost in thought, it's going to be difficult to distinguish between illusory fearful thoughts and subtle intuitive thoughts. Both illusory thoughts and intuitive thoughts get all mixed up in the mind, and then that makes it hard for being able to distinguish and recognize intuitive signals. I set an intention every morning to notice when I've fallen asleep so I can wake up. And what I mean by that, I notice when I'm lost in thought. But specifically, I notice when my attention is lost in thought. Once I wake up, then I can operate from awareness instead of thinking. This helps me recognize intuitive signals, and then it helps me intentionally integrate them into what I'm doing with my attention. So follow these intuitive signals. Integrate them into the experiences for that day. And that's going to help you discern which intuitive signals were helpful and which ones were not. And over time, you're going to gain more and more experience so you know what you can trust and what you can't. And because that's what we're working toward here. We want to, over time, be able to trust our intuition and trust these intuitive signals more. All of this helps you trust how life is unfolding. And when you can trust how life is unfolding more by including intuition, it really makes meeting the challenges of life a lot more fun. You use your intellect a lot. Well, use your intuition also to balance it out. Here's how. Set an intention each morning for focusing on EBOM, this expanded body observant mind. This grounds you in awareness instead of thinking. And then use the warrior master skill of noticing and redirecting all day long to continually get back into that aware state. If you recall, noticing and redirecting, you're noticing when you're lost in thought, and then redirecting your attention back to EBOM. Then apply these steps with these intuitive signals that come into your awareness. Here's the drill. 1. Notice. Be aware of subtle thoughts and feelings coming into your awareness. 2. Pause. Create some space for intuitive signals. Don't allow your intellect to discount it. 3. Integrate the intuitive signal. Discern whether it was helpful or not. Your ability to trust your intuition grows with experience. Just follow those intuitive signals. Integrate them into your daily experience. Intuition will balance your intellect. It'll create a whole method that helps you trust how life is unfolding. And really, it makes trusting how life is unfolding a lot more fun.